Welcome to the Dude Make Something podcast. I'm your host, Jam Calpin. I'm here every week to help you stop adulting from killing your creativity and to encourage you to create something to help your mental health. What's going on, guys? So today's topic, I think, is very important, and this may not be a PC, maybe not PC. This may not be like a good topic to listen to if you have kids or whatever, because of the subject matter. I'm not gonna be like cussing or anything like that, but it's definitely for a more mature audience. So if you got kids that are young or they need earmuffs or whatever, you might want to save this podcast for another opportunity or another time for you to listen to. Maybe while you're working out, or maybe while you're making something, then the next time that you're actually creating something to help be creative and to help yourself relieve stress, because that's what we're talking about today. Last episode we talked about why it's necessary to have an outlet or an emotional release valve, and how it's really, 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 really important. And because if you don't, you can explode in not so good ways. You can explode in regards to your health. Like, it's sad that, especially for Black men and just Black people in general, like some of the things that kill us the most is like heart disease, diabetes, health things that can really easily be dealt with if we took care of ourselves, if we knew the right ways to take care of ourselves and we actually put that stuff into practice. So yeah, it's important, one, that we exercise, make sure our physical health is good. We make sure that we're eating right. Like, there's so much food that we eat that we know is tasty, but we also know is not good for us. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just an aside, but there's this restaurant called Hip Hop Fish and Chicken near where I live. And when we first moved up to our new apartment where we are now, we went there a few times. I think it's Hip Hop Chicken and Fish or something like that. But they sell, like, it's kind of like carry out food. They sell fried chicken, fried fish, different things like that. And most often, yeah, it tastes good. I mean, it's very hard to not like. Fried chicken is good. All right, we're not gonna act like it's not. Fried chicken is tasty. So is fried catfish or any other fried fish. Like, it's good. But that stuff is trash for your health. Like, if we're really being honest, like, especially if you're eating it often, like, no, that stuff is not good for you. And so at some point, it's two things. At some point, we were going there kind of regularly. And, I was talking to my wife and I was like, we probably shouldn't be eating this. Like, this isn't good. And also, for me, the other thing that struck a chord for me is like a lot of their stores, because it's kind of like a chain, are in areas that you could consider like low income, or they're definitely people of color there, and more specifically Black people. And there was one time I was going to go pick up an order, and there was just this line of Black brothers and sisters going in here to get this food, and the people behind the counter aren't Black. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, it was very unsettling and very uncomfortable, just for me. And again, like I said, this is an aside, and we're going to get to the topic. We're going to get to the topic of the podcast today. But like, for me, that was like, all right, now we're not going here no more. It's not healthy. And I low-key feel like this stuff is messing up our people. This is definitely like a very slow and covert way, for one, for people to make money off of us. And two, it's really killing us, and it's killing our people. Like, nah, we got to do better. And, at this point, we're not patronizing that restaurant anymore, because yeah, it's not good for you. It's not good for you. And so, like, we have these multiple causes of early death and sickness in our lives. And a lot of it is what we're eating, how we're living, and like stress. And, like I've mentioned before, a big component of this podcast, what I'm trying to encourage is like, we need to deal with our mental health, especially as men. We got to deal with what's going on in our heads, and in our hearts, because we have been taught for a very long time to not, one, be expressive or emotive with our feelings or our thoughts. That's deemed too feminine or anything like that. Like, and it's, one, it's a lie. And two, it's not healthy. It's not helpful at all. Like, trying to be stoic all the time or be hard all the time or whatever, I guess, pause for anybody out there that's, has that thought or whatever. Anyways, like trying to live that kind of lifestyle isn't healthy. It's not beneficial for us individually, and it's not beneficial for us in our communities or our relationships. Like, we have to get away from this ideology, this worldview, this thought that is not benefiting us at all in any way. Like, to feel forced that we have to carry ourselves like robots or like characters in a movie, or what we see in like hip hop music or whatever, that's not helping us. That's not benefiting us. In the same way, like, I think it ties in with what I want to talk about today is that like vices are not good outlets to deal with stress. And so we see it in media. We see it in culture, whether it's, I'm going to smoke a J. I'm going to get some, edibles or whatever. I'm going to drink alcohol, or I'm just going to hook up with a girl. Like these are considered almost like healthy ways to deal with stress or what's going on. It's like, no, I'm just going to go smash, or I'm just going to get high, I'm get drunk. I'm going to deal with, I'm going to not really deal with what's really going on with me. But I'm going to find different ways to be distracted. And that's not good because the reality is it's hiding. It's just covering up and distracting what's really happening internally. It's not addressing anything. It's not fixing anything. It's providing some quote unquote temporary relief, but it's not fixing the problem. It's like taking over the counter drugs. Like, if somebody has a headache and they're like, all right, let me just grab some aspirin or something, take it. And it may give some temporary relief, but it's not really fixing the problem. You might just need to sleep. You might need to eat different. Maybe you shouldn't have had the hip hop chicken and fish. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's other things. Or you could just be really stressed out. Like, you got so much going on in your head that you need to sit down and get it out. Whether that's in a journal or sitting down doing like a vlog or a podcast or something, or painting or coloring or all these things, all these tools and resources that a lot of it is stuff that we were given as children. But now because we're men, we don't do that stuff. That's not how we handle our issues as men. That's a lie, yo. Like, this ideology that we have to be a certain way and, carry ourselves in a certain way. And I'm sure it's a buzzword that people have heard before, like toxic masculinity. Like, we can't be expressive. We can't take time to like fully be ourselves. We can't get therapy. We can't get help or counseling to deal with what's going on with us. This idea that we don't really have any problems. Like, we got everything. And yes, God did design us, in comparison to women, to deal with stress more. That doesn't mean we're supposed to just bury the stress inside of our souls. That doesn't mean that like we're not supposed to actually deal with the stress. Yes, we're supposed to take burdens that our wives or, sisters or women can't take. Yes, that's part of our design. But God also gave us the ability and also encourages us to release that stress so that we can be healthy. And like I talked about in the previous episode about the emotional release valve, that can be in writing a poem. That can be in, if you're so inclined, putting on a beat and just freestyling how angry you are, how frustrated you are, how sad you are, how scared you are. Like, even in this moment for me, like, I'm carrying some stress and some burdens. And there's always a temptation to try to turn to a vice to try to fix the problem. But the reality is it doesn't fix it. It doesn't fix it at all. Like, for me, especially my time in college, and I would say even like some time in high school, whatever, high school into college, I really struggled with like pornography and masturbation. And a lot of it, yeah, there was lust there, but oftentimes when I felt stressed, and I felt like just underwater and I couldn't deal with stuff, that's what I would turn to. And it never fixed a problem, ever. You know what I'm saying? Like, and even for me, like as a believer, you feed into that temptation, you feed into that thing. And for that period of time, you feel fine, but then the guilt kicks in and then reality kicks in. And then you're like kicking yourself because it's like, yo, this amount of time, I probably could have been dealing with the issue, or I could have been expressing myself, getting counsel or talking to a brother, or, creating some art to deal with myself, to deal with what I'm feeling. It's not a good trade-off at all. And so whether it's pornography, masturbation, or even like any other of the major vices, like drinking your pain away, no, it's not really helping. And I mean, yeah, there's some times where sometimes you just feel like taking a drink, yo. Like I need something. I need something to kind of calm my nerves or my mind. And that can be understandable. But in the midst of that, you still got to deal with what's really happening. You can't just drown it with alcohol, or any other kind of, drug. Getting high all the time is not necessarily fixing your problems. It's just burying things and covering stuff up. You got to deal with the issue. And all I'm suggesting in the show is to use creativity, to use art to help you to deal with that stuff. Don't turn to vices. Don't turn to using women or alcohol or drugs or anything else that's actually not beneficial for you. Because what's drinking all the time going to do? Lead to alcoholism, mess up your liver, mess that stuff up. And even with like smoking all the time. I've been high before, yeah, and honestly, if I had to choose between the two vices, I'd rather be drunk than high, because I feel like you can't even do anything. And then, and like being high, to me, I just feel like useless. I can't do anything. And it's like, what is this? Sure, it may be okay to feel, loopy or whatever for a period of time, but like, no. And then like the lingering effects of it, whatever, I don't know. I'm sure there, some listeners out there who might be like, I don't know what you're smoking or consuming, but I don't have that experience. But, to depend on that, like there are some people, my wife and I went to Colorado, which is where I first imbibed in marijuana. But we went into the dispensaries because it was legal, whatever. And, it's kind of like when you're in Rome, do as the Romans do. The Romans, they had some issues, but anyways, like, so we were asking, I guess the cashier or whatever, the guy that was helping us with stuff, like, what would you suggest? And, what could we try or whatever? And in the midst of that conversation and sharing stuff, he was like, yeah, I got to do this stuff every night or I can't go to sleep. And yes, I understand in a scientific sense, you can't be addicted to marijuana, but that kind of sounds like a problem. If you need to do this every day to kind of function normally, I don't know. It sounds like there's a deeper problem that needs to be dealt with. So regardless of what the vice is, like vices are things that don't put you in a position that help you, they keep you trapped. Like here's the definition of the word vice. This is from dictionary.com. Faithful. There are a couple of different definitions, so I'll just read them. Vice. This is the first definition. There's some more. An immoral or evil habit or practice. Immoral conduct, depraved or degrading behavior, sexual immorality, especially prostitution, a particular form of depravity, a fault, defect, or shortcoming, a bad habit. I don't know why this says a bad habit as in a horse. I don't know what that's about. Archaic, a physical defect, flaw, or infirmity. So even in the archaic sense, having a vice is something that's actually slowing you down. Like it's a flaw. It's not good. It's an infirmity. It's like, this isn't good. It's not benefiting you. And it is very often is so easy to actually turn to a vice than it is to actually deal with the problems of our soul, to deal with our mental anguish and our stress. It is so much easier to just go to pornhub.com and, relieve yourself. It's true. Or to go to the liquor store and get a fifth and make a drink and be okay. Or to just get some edibles, eat some, just sit back and don't do anything. There are different vices out there. These are just major ones. Another vice could just be like careless spending. There are so many people who are caught up in credit card debt because they're just like emotionally buying things. It's not good. It's not good. And it's not helping us. It doesn't help us as men who struggle with various vices. It's not helping our community. Like, it's not good. The better thing, which is often very hard and difficult to do, is to try to deal with it, or at least trying to relieve yourself of the stress, of the emotional pressure that's in your head through creating, through therapy, through counseling. That's something we got to do. That's something we got to consider. Vices are not helping us. It's not a good way to relieve stress. It's not a good way to deal with mental health. It's not at all. And so I'm just suggesting, like, before you consider your typical vice, or whatever you usually turn to when you're stressed or whatever, consider just making something. Journal entry, drawing a picture, taking a picture, painting something, writing a song. Or, if you like making things with your hands, go carve something, whittle something, buy like a model set, get some Legos, like make something. And then even if you're stressed, like make something with some Legos and then break it. That's something. You're creating something. You're putting the energy and expressing it and getting it out without just numbing yourself with a vice. It's just a thought, just a consideration. Thanks for listening to the show. For those checking out the podcast on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe and, leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are about, dealing with vices and turning to creativity and doing something creative as a better way of dealing with the problem. For those listening on your favorite podcasting app, leave a comment, review, subscribe, and follow, especially on Spotify. Thanks again for tuning in. Until the next episode, find some time to go make something. It's good for you and for those who matter to you.